Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Webtoon Bookclub. Today's story, Dating with a Tail, which is one of my personal favorites. This story was an absolute joy to read. It's also really stupid and funny and touching and basically a little bit of everything. Basically, the author did a really good job with this one. Anyway, so our story starts with our main girl, our main character, where she's just going about her life, no problems, no issues. Doesn't really seem to be concerned about much. Then one day she gets home from work and she's feeling this itching and poking in her backside. And when she takes a look, she has a tail growing out of her. She understandably freaks out about this, tries to contact her grandmother in the other room, who seems to be oddly nonchalant about this, or whatever the reaction she gives is. I'm honestly not sure. But they then try to see if they can find any reasons of why, and finding this a old story about a fox that who fell in love with a woodcutter and asked a mountain spirit to turn them into a human. And the mountain spirit asked them to make their fox pearl and give the fox pearl to them. So the fox spent the time making the pearl, and then while she was on her way to give the pearl to the mountain spirit, she found the woodcutter horribly injured and decided to give the pearl to the mountain spirit to save him. But that means the fox no longer could give it to the mountain spirit to become human, and the fox prayed to the mountain spirit to find another way, because she still wanted to be with the woodcutter. So the mountain spirit said, I will give you 12 more lifetimes. Yeah, I will make you human for the next 12 lifetimes, but you have to find the woodcutter and marry them within that time. And or you will turn back into a fox. So, so she's on her last life before turning back into a fox, and she has to do it before she turns 30. So she now has 1 year left to find the woodcutter and become human. And if you ponder, why did it take her this long? How was she not able to? Because apparently we find out she spent all the other of her lifetimes goofing off and not actually trying. She's very lazy and a bit dumb. Anyway, I love this story. It's awesome. But there will be some signs. So what she has to do is she has to find the woodcutter. She'll know if she found the woodcutter if she kisses the right person and the fox pearl will, show on their chest. But, of course, that brings with the implication, well, how do I know when I find the right person to begin with? Do I just go around kissing random people? No, she apparently will just give off pheromones that only the woodcutter can figure out. But there's a twist to this. It's not just the woodcutter. It's 3 people total. So she's off to work the next day, and her best friend that she's known for many years starts acting strange and thinks she smells really good. So we have contender number 1. Then she goes to work, and her boss, when he walks by, also starts acting strange. So there's contender number 2. And the third one we find just a little bit we find later that same day, because she's now conflicted, like, does she have to now marry her best friend, or does she somehow have to get with her boss? And which one is the right person? She goes to her church to talk to her preacher. And while the preacher handles it fine, we find out through his own thoughts, because it's a story, that, yep, he's the third contender. But he spends a good amount of time keeping it hidden from her. Like a very long time, even though he's not really good at it. Again, she's a bit stupid. The other two were just a lot more obvious. But she tries her boss, thinking, yeah, he might be the right guy, because she definitely doesn't want to go date her like, childhood friend. So, at first, the boss is like, what are you doing? He's very off-put about it, but at the same time, he can't stop thinking about her. It's to the point where it actually starts to drive him crazy. So, he gives in and accepts to start dating her, which goes very well. She shows him a lot of stuff. She shows that she's somewhat compatible with him. Possibly. It goes very well. Meanwhile, she's constantly visiting her preacher, and yeah, to try and get advice and to help with the situation that she finds herself in, because she's just absolutely flustered by this whole thing. Until eventually the preacher does come out saying that, like, he might be the third guy. And this is a good bit into the story, because she very much just did not notice, and he was pretty good at hiding it. So one of the dates she was on with her boss, she ends up getting very drunk and overwhelmed by the situation. So she ends up running to the church. The boss chases after her. The best friend sees him chasing her, and has some misinterpretations of the situation, and starts chasing after her as well. And they all find themselves in the priest's office. And she, in a drunken state, just like, screw it, I'm just gonna get this over with. Everybody pucker up. The problem with the priest, and why he was so adamant to hide it before, is because if you're unfamiliar with the rules of Christianity when it comes to preachers, they are binded by the rule of chastity. I don't know if this applies to other religions or not, probably, but considering what the story is focusing on, that's what we're going to focus on with that. So he, by the rule of the church, cannot marry or date somebody. So he was so despite the fact that he was kind of falling for her, he can't do anything about it. So while they're all in his office, she manages to get kissed off the best friend, and then accidentally kiss the priest. And before she can get a kiss off on the boss, she ends up getting pushed away a bit, and then passes out in her drunken state before being carried home. But the next day, the friend has no emotional attraction towards her anymore. He's just back. He just thinks the whole situation was just very weird. And kind of writes off in his own mind that he was just looking out for her, even though that wasn't really the case at all. The best friend really didn't do much more than kind of be a bit intrusive. Because she actively was trying to avoid him and be with her boss. And he was constantly butting in, like, no, no, no. He's not a good person. I need to rescue you. Well, whatever. He's off the list now. He has no emotional attraction towards her anymore. So, now it just comes down to the priest and the boss. The boss is still going, and the priest still has the attraction towards her. So, at this point, we find out, yes, the priest is actually the woodcutter. But the boss is going to keep playing it off. Which eventually he finds out as well. Yeah, like the two, and she ends up telling the priest the story, and the boss ends up figuring out because they eventually start regaining their memories from that original past life that caused this whole situation to begin with. So, the boss ends up finding out just from basically having these past life memories restored to him. And he tries to get the priest out of the picture in probably the worst way possible, which goes kind of cartoonish. Or at least comedic in a way. Basically, he just constantly fails or is trying to be sneaky about it, but our main character's just constantly there, so it just can never work. His really tries to make an attempt when all three of them are helping out at an orphanage. And it ends, again, kind of comedically, if anything. She kind of finds out about the crazy antics and gets a bit upset about the whole situation, once again, kind of just being overwhelmed. After a little bit more of shenanigans, we end up getting the full backstory in its truest form, which is the story as we've already known it did happen to that end, but beyond that, the woodcutter did not actually survive, despite being given the fox pearl. And the fox started to fall for this other guy who was kind of there within the situation. And this third guy actually had feelings for the fox as well. Yes, this is a very weird story. How the story is presented visually, it makes the fox into this anthro-human. Probably so it's not presenting bestiary. So, yeah. The visuals in this story are great. I love them. But what we end up finding is the third guy ends up killing the second guy, and the fox is just completely distraught about the whole situation and doesn't know what to do. And the mountain spirit, I guess, kind of all binds them together in this, like, situation that they now find themselves in. So the boss was the murderer, the best friend was the second guy, and the priest was the woodcutter. But all in all, the boss eventually, seeing that he almost caused history to repeat itself, kind of willingly just gives up. But the priest ends up stops being a priest because we find out in his backstory that he only started being a priest, but he wasn't all that extremely into it. He only did it because a best friend of his years and years ago wanted to be a priest. And ended up getting in this bad motorcycle accident that sent him into a coma. So he took over his dream of becoming a priest for him, because he blames himself for the accident. But eventually that friend came out of the coma. towards the end of the story here, and goes to meet the now priest and tells him it's like he doesn't blame him for the situation, and he should have lived a life that he wasn't going to be happy with, and to just go live the life he wants to live. So the priest stops being a priest and goes after the main character, and pretty much admits it all to her, opens up entirely, and the two accept each other, I guess. I can't really find the words for the situation. But here's the kicker. This is her last day. So she has to get married within 10 minutes before she turns into a fox. So they quickly rush to her house, get her grandma to try and marry them, despite how ridiculous this whole situation is. And unfortunately, right before their official connection is made, she turns into a fox. But he's not distraught by this. He's just like, we can still make this work, and kisses her anyway, as a fox. And what we do find is the grandma was the mountain spirit the whole time, and the deal that is made is, I will let you have this one, but I will remove something that is extremely special from you. What ends up getting removed is the memories of the grandmother. So our main character walks into her house. It's just like, I feel like something is missing. Oh, well, guess it's not that important. She honestly just does not care. She's not even remotely saddened by it. We find out the mountain spirit is kind of an egotistical he's an egotistical douche. He thinks he's far more important to everybody than he really is. And he thinks people care about him far more than they actually do. So the mountain spirit just goes off to live his life. The two characters now get to be together for the rest of their lives, and everybody is happy for the most part. Or at least, I guess, they're happy. And that ends this wild ride of an insane story. I absolutely loved this story. It was crazy. It was wild. It was a joy and a half. It was entertained by it through and through. I can't describe the amount of joy I had rethinking and re-going through this story. It was an absolute blast. The characters are great. The situation is ridiculous. Everything about it was just amazing. So, yes, highly, highly recommend. I highly recommend checking out this story and reading it for yourself. And I will definitely tell you, you're going to get a few laughs, and you're definitely going to get a few moments that are going to keep you hooked. So, with that, that was Dating with a Tail. So, list of stories is in the description below. Vote on which one you would like me to talk about next time, and I will see you in the next one. See ya.